Wow, look at all this abundance. All these apples, walnuts, and pears were harvested from trees right here in Hawaii. That's right. Depending on where you live in Hawaii, you can grow all sorts of temperate crops. I'm in an experimental orchard that was started over 140 years ago on the slopes of Mauna Kea on the Big Island. And here, there's all sorts of wonderful fruit growing. We got apples, quince, peaches, pears, plums, you name it. All the great temperate fruits can grow up here on the slopes of Mauna Kea. Isn't that surprising? You thought Hawaii was just for tropical fruit, right? Well, this is promising for a lot of you that live in the upper elevations because you could grow temperate crops that those of us who live down lower towards the ocean can't grow. And if you grow them, then we could all trade and create more of a local network of food that increases the bounty of the islands. And today I'm going to share with you just some of the varieties and some techniques you can use to be able to grow these temperate food crops in your own home garden, if you happen to live in the proper place, of course. These temperate food crops are known to grow anywhere from the 2,000-foot level on up to 6,000 to 8,000 feet here in Hawaii. It all kind of depends on how much moisture you're getting, how much sun you get, and how much cold weather you actually get where you're living. You see, a lot of these temperate fruit crops need chilling hours in order to produce fruit. You may be able to get a tree to grow, but will it actually produce fruit? Well, that depends on the chill hours. You see, over time, people have bred apples and plums and peaches to be able to fruit with lower chill hours. Typically, an apple, for instance, will need about 500 chill hours, and that means it needs to grow in a colder climate. But they've been able to breed varieties that need as little as 150 to 200 chill hours. Chill hours mean the weather gets below 45 degrees for about, 100, 150 hours a year. And you need that in order for the trees to be able to know that it's time to set fruit. And when it comes to varieties of temperate fruit crops to grow, for apples, we have some like Anna apple, Beverly Hills. For plums, we have like the Methley plum or the Santa Rosa plum. Peaches, there's the Donut King or the Florida Prince. All these varieties, there's so many different varieties of apples, pears, peaches, plums that grow well in lower chilling hours that I really can't remember them all. I'm going to leave them down in a list down below for you to check out yourself. And when it comes to planting these new varieties of fruit trees, you gotta make sure that you do it right. Up here at this orchard, they're trying to establish new young fruit trees, but I came here about 7 years ago and they haven't really done a thing. That's because they just leave them inside these cages and never take care of them. The grasses are growing all around them, there's never any mulch or compost spread, and they kind of just eventually feel a little constrained in that environment. So I would advise for you, it's good to have protection for your plants from animals, but it's important to get in there every now and then. This is typical for people who fence off their trees like this, is they never open them up, get in there, and actually clear out the weeds along the base of the tree. And that makes a huge difference in the growth. So if you could just do that, that would make a big difference. But if you can add compost and mulch on top of that, you're going to have trees that are going to grow great. And if you do things right, you'll have an orchard with trees looking like this turn into an orchard with trees looking like that. One thing I'd like to mention is the fact that some of these trees seem to be growing better than others. Apples, no problem. They seem to be growing great. And so are pears. In fact, pears are tasting better than the apples in our opinion. There have been some varieties of apples that have been tasting great, but most of them are going to be for juicing or making pies or something, whereas the pears are delicious just eating straight off the tree. And you can tell this young pear tree here is growing up really well without much care. And I noticed a few others that are around here. The pears are growing up really well, the young pear trees, whereas all the peaches, the plums, the apples, they're struggling. They're not doing too well with lack of management. But these pear trees seem to be doing fine, so that's something to keep in mind. Also, I've noticed that when coming up here throughout the years, I've never really found a very good tasting peach. There's quince, and quince is good, but I don't know. I don't really know much about it or when to eat it, so maybe I'm not eating it at the right time. Let's see what else we got up here. Plums. I would love to see it at plum season. I've only seen plums during this time of year, and they're all kind of losing their leaves and getting ready for winter time. But I hear plum season up here is great, and there's delicious plums that you can have. Other than that, what else? My kids just found a walnut tree that we're gonna go check out in a minute, and we also found Asian pears. We found apricots. I think they're experimenting with all sorts of types of temperate crops up here to see what works best. And in my observations, just coming through over the years, like I said, pear and apple, and probably plum. If you want quince as well, that grows great. Peaches, I might stay away from them. Nectarines, apricots, I don't know about those. But I've heard about people growing great peaches, and maybe it's just here in this orchard. So don't get me wrong. If you want to try out peaches, you should do it. Maybe you'll be the one with delicious peaches to share with everyone on the island. All right, let's go check out that walnut tree, huh? I just got a pair of brand new rain boots from High C, and I gotta say, they're fantastic. I've been walking through this wet, tall grass all morning looking for apples, pears, and peaches, and my feet have been completely dry. And I gotta say, I've never experienced that before. I normally have a cheap pair of shoes that get my socks wet when I'm out in wet grass. And now I have these nice comfy rain boots that are in fact more comfortable than my shoes. So I could love these things. And they also come with a lifetime warranty, which is fantastic. If there's ever anything that happens with them, I could just send them back and get a new pair. Which, I don't know, guys. Not many shoe companies offer that. So if you're looking for a new pair of rain boots that you could use around your homestead, think about getting a pair of these High C rain boots. You won't be disappointed. In fact, you could get 20% off if you use my coupon code HOMESTEADNHI and go to highc.com to get your boots for your next outing in the garden. By doing that, you help support this channel, you get yourself a nice pair of comfy shoes that'll last you forever, and you get a discount. Who doesn't like that, right? Thanks, guys. Now, we're almost at that walnut tree. Let's go check it out. All right, here behind me is the walnut tree, and it's producing right now. It's pretty cool to see a walnut in Hawaii. You don't really get stuff like this. I love macadamia nuts, so it's not real lost for me, but having walnuts and different varieties is a great thing to have. And it really opens the door to what we can grow here in Hawaii. If you live in the upper elevation, you can grow so much. And a lot of people don't think about the fact that you can grow walnuts and apples and peaches and plums. And that's just one of the takeaways I want you to take from this video. And in fact, I'm more curious, who out there has a cold climate orchard that they're already establishing where they live? Do you have apples growing? Do you have plums, pears, peaches growing in Hawaii? Why don't you leave a comment down below? I'd love to hear about it and share maybe your successes or failures with other people so that we can learn more about high altitude orcharding, so that more of us could be growing food regardless of where we live on the islands. Because a lot of people are told you can't really grow much in the upper elevations. But right here, this orchard has proven that to be wrong. So I just want to say thanks everybody for joining me on this tour of this awesome fruit orchard on the slopes of Mauna Kea at 5,000 feet. I hope it inspires you to go out there and think about growing different types of crops in your home orchard. Who knows? You might have success growing something that nobody ever thought would be able to grow here in Hawaii. Till next time, everybody, ahui ho!